The Supreme Court on Wednesday granted former Attorney General Martin Amido's wish to question businessman Alfred Agbasi Woyoma about the 51 million Ghana cedis paid him in judgment debt some 5 years ago.
Though he has been ordered to refund the monies to the state, not much has been paid except for 4 million cedis he paid back recently. It is anticipated the former AG's oral examination of the businessman may result in the disclosure of names of persons who may have benefited from his largesse and fast-track the retrieval of the money. Joseph Akublay was in court and report on the procedures and reactions from the parties involved.
Very last one. Put this thing down, put this thing down. All of you, put this thing down. What sort of thing is this?
That was businessman Alfred Woyoma and an aide gesturing the camera crew to turn their devices away from him right outside the court premises after Justice Enini Yeboah delivered a judgment. He also confronted legal practitioner and host of Newsfile on Joy News, Samson Ladi Ayenini. The order was direct. The embattled businessman is to make himself available in the witness box next week Thursday, November 24, to answer questions relating to what assets he owns, as well as tell the court how the 52 million cedis was spent. The former AG filed a motion at the Apex Court after the Attorney General had backed down on an earlier application to thoroughly examine Mr. Woyoma. In his affidavit, Mr. Amido alleged that the AG backed down because the businessman had threatened to mention names of government appointees who had benefited from the said amount. This application was opposed by the Attorney General and the lawyer for Alfred Agbasi Woyoma. They both argued that the law permitted the AG to lead such an action and not a citizen of the country. Justice Enini Yeboah in his ruling said the decision by the AG to discontinue the examination meant there was no formal document before the court as to how the state intended to retrieve the money. Justice Enini Yeboah said the retrieval of such a colossal amount of money will go into the state coffers. He also pointed out that Article 2.3 of the 1992 Constitution allowed the former AG to undertake the action he was seeking. A visibly outraged Mr. Woyoma refused to speak to journalists, but could be heard vowing to fight to the end. Next week's date between the two at the Supreme Court is certainly one to look forward to. For Joy News, Joseph Akublay reporting.
And citizen vigilante Martin Amido did not speak to newsmen after the ruling by the Supreme Court.
Well, he has, however, been explaining why he wants to cross-examine Mr. Woyoma. The following remarks were made back on Newsfile some 2 weeks ago.
It was the NDC government through its Attorney General who paid the money to Woyoma. And the NDC government, through the Attorney General, was the first defendant. And the Supreme Court found that their conduct was unconstitutional. And that is why they should retrieve the money. And they are not trying to do that because they are interested parties. Yes, the contract was done in April 2006 during the MPP. But the MPP didn't pay any money to Woyoma. Woyoma couldn't get them to pay, so he waited. When they were out of power, he said he was an NDC financier. He went and colluded with the government, and the government looted our money, 51 million, and gave to him. Collect the money, you are not doing it. And in any case, if the letter which says that they are going to come and settle with the Attorney General, why don't you go to court and ask for the case to be adjourned instead of discontinuing? Simple, common sense. You see, they are trying to steal and to defraud Ghana. They don't know how to do it.
And businessman Alfred Agbasi Woyoma, well, in the last couple of hours after that very ruling, had been reacting to that very ruling. And an interview granted some media houses and streamed live on Daily Graphics Facebook page, Mr. Woyoma criticized the Supreme Court, which he said was being used to persecute him and other citizens whose names had appeared in a supposed list of beneficiaries of monies paid him.
Well, he explained the decision of the current Attorney General to discontinue the cross-examination is being pursued, which is also being pursued by Martin Amido, is well informed. He expressed confidence the majority of Ghanaians are on his side.
We found out that no, the path that the attorney and others were taking was improper. So they decided to listen to it and discontinue this based on my promise to pay 4 million and also structure the rest payment quarterly at 5 million to finish the payment? Why has some people who have personal interest in this case gone and trying to create a situation in social media and obtain of a list of purported recipients and here and there in order to create something against innocent people in the ruling government and even in the opposition? This is improper. The apex courts can never be used to tarnish the image of any citizen. Now, the content and the comment by the learned Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Duche, of create, loot, and share was not part of the judgment. It was a dissenting opinion on which he stated those opinions, and those opinions have been debunked. It has been debunked because people who have taken, the lower courts, who have taken evidence, have stated clearly that it was not so. And therefore, anybody mentioning create, loot, and share is creating a judicial problem for himself, because it was a part of that judgment. There was no create, loot, and share. I don't have money to be sharing at Father Christmas. I'm a hard-working businessman. I work with several countries, and if you go to even to Togo, most of the time I am in the front page of papers with them. I do a lot of things. I cannot come and tell the public what I do. I'm not running for an office. Neither am I interested in running for an office. Why are people hooked onto this? What are they trying hard to defend? What are they preventing to hold on to this? The matter is plain, clear. Sometimes I marvel myself. The question is, the propaganda, the lies, the vilification on a fellow citizen like yours is too much. 5 years is enough. If there were any iota of truth, they should have gotten it. It is enough. It has affected my family, affected myself, church members, many people. And I can tell you for sure, the majority of Ghanaians who are the silent people are with me in this matter.
The opposition New Patriotic Party is asking government to halt the payments of contract sum amounting to some 448 million cedis to waste management company Zoomlion Ghana Limited. The contract agreement between the government and Zoomlion was cancelled back in 2013, but the NPP says government is still paying the company for no work done.
Developments of President John Mahama's commitments to paying nearly $500 million Ghana cedis, being a purported management service fee to a company with no contractual engagement with the state. Already, 62 million Ghana cedis of this illegal amount has been paid. And to make matters worse, Cabinet has given go-ahead for the use of 10% of the District Assembly Common Fund allocated to the Youth Employment Agency to make this illegal payment. This amount is meant to pay for 45,000 workers who are actually on the payroll of the various district assemblies. So the assemblies are responsible for paying the wages of the 45,000 and not the service provider. This act of corruption is a matter for which Ghanaians must demand and deserve answers to.
And the Ghana Police Service says they will do everything within their power to ensure that imposters do not get away with fraudulent activities.
According to the Accra Region Police PRO, ASP Efiat Tenge, criminal activities will not thrive under their watch, especially with the approach of the election. The assurance follows the arrest of a 30-year-old man who wore a military uniform, armed himself, and stationed at Adenta Frafraha in Accra, where preparations were underway for President Mahama to commission a community day senior high school. ASP Efiatenge has been explaining to Joy News the latest development on that matter.
Actually, what happened was that on the said day, we were all undertaking certain security assessments and certain security measures to ensure the successful arrival of the president, until we realized that this man was around, and he's been with some of the security men around, going up and down. So looking at his demeanor, observing him for some time, we decided to probe further and find out who he was, because we knew ourselves, we knew the actual components, the number of personnel that were there. So we had to invite him, where we asked what he was doing there. Then he boldly told the police that, oh yes, he's one of the national security operatives, and he has been assigned to the Flagstaff House, so he's also here to also ensure. So right from the beginning, we said, oh, okay, fine, until we had the national security, the real operatives coming. Then in the process, we also try to cross-check, because in some of these ceremonies or events, we have the way we organize our things, only for them to say that no, they did a little bit of questioning. Then we really got to know that he was just there, he didn't know what to say, and we realized that yes, he was an imposter. So we conducted a search on him, and we found a pistol on him. We also found a pair of handcuffs. So we extended our search further to his abodes and any place that we believe he could hide any of these things. Then we got to the military uniforms, the boots, the berets, and things that should belong to the security sector, hence arresting him.
About a third of the electorate in Ghana consider themselves as floating voters who do not identify themselves with any political party.
According to a survey conducted by the Center for Democratic Development in October this year, the number of such voters, often the most sought after in any election, also appears to be growing. Joy News' Hannah Odame reports the National Commission for Civic Education also scored poor marks in the survey, which assessed the prospects for credibility and peacefulness ahead of the December 7 elections.
Floating voters have often determined the outcome of Ghana's elections, as they are more amenable to the messages from the political parties, unlike the hardcore followers who hardly ever change their minds. The October survey revealed the number of floating voters had gone up marginally from the 30% in July this year to 31% in October. Announcing the results of the survey, senior research fellow Dr. Edem Salome could not explain why the 31% will not identify with any party.
A majority of Ghanaians, 64%, say they feel close to a political party. Now pay attention to the percentage that say they do not feel close to a political party. Now what that means in plain language is that there are more floating voters that we probably know. So this percentage dropped only by 1% from the July survey. So 31% say they are not close to any political party.
69% of the nearly 3,000 respondents were also of the opinion political parties and candidates are involved in vote buying, with cash, clothing, household items, and alcohol among the items being handed out in exchange for votes. Meanwhile, the National Commission for Civic Education, NCCE, which ideally should be advocating against acts such as vote buying, were found to be performing rather poorly in a number of fronts, especially with their preparedness for the elections. The Ghana Police Service, on the other hand, came up tops. Another interesting result from this survey is that 78% of Ghanaians prefer a free and fair election, even if their preferred candidate does not win. Yet, fear the tallying of the poll numbers may not be accurate.
Close to 8 in 10 say they prefer to have a completely free and fair elections, even if their candidate fails to win. And again, a large majority, 44%, believe it is very or somewhat likely that the wrong vote tally would be announced.
One high point of the survey is that 9 out of 10 voters say they will participate in the upcoming elections. For Joy News, my name is Hannah Odami.
And that's it for the news. We have a lot more of the news as we review the newspapers. And we'll also be reviewing a lot more of the online portals. myjoyonline.com. We'll go to City FM and the Africa page of the BBC.
Stay with us.
We'll be right back.